Okay, good evening, and I'm going to do MSTY. I'll do a separate Coney. So interesting times for MSTY. It kept, so we got hurt on the weeklies because we ran so high. So let's recap that. We were up 15.86 yesterday on Mr. and only up 2.65. So obviously had some big losses pending, but we made a bunch of money on our synthetic, right? So those were kind of offsetting. So what did the fund managers do today? We went down some, but we were still well above that. Well, what they did was they came in here and they took off. This was 943 contracts, right? So let me recap. So down 4.22 from 1503 to 1439, call it 40. So we're down about 63 points, down 4%. And we were barely down, right? So we actually were up. So I take that back. We weren't barely down. We were slightly up from 31.77 to 31.84. So positive there. And that's to be expected a lot of times in small declines or sideways that will outperform. So what did they do? I don't have these all printed out, but they took this was 943, the bulk of the 517 contracts, right? So they went out and they sold 30 of those, or bought them back, I should say, right? Because they'd already sold the calls. Well, that cost them a pretty penny, right? They had sold those for, they were included in the number up here. They had sold them for, let me do that here. So in fairness, yeah, they had sold them for 86,000, and so they had to buy them back for 498, right? So that was a big loss in itself because those were the furthest in the money. But we still got another 2.6, we still got a huge amount. We still got 14.6 million that were behind. But I'll get into that when I get into holdings and the synthetic. Otherwise, they went through and we took a loss on these 25 here that we sold for 36.7 and bought back for 135. The 4 remaining here, where we at one time we had 14 and we made money on this one, bought it back a few days ago at 18 before Mr. really ran. It sold it for 32. But anyway, this kind of money we lost, this money we lost, and this money we lost. The good news, right? So altogether that was about a million, a little over a million. So let's go and look at that. And by the way, when you add all those together, there were 90 call contracts that they bought back, and all of them cost us money, right? We still have this many outstanding, right? So let's go look at the 1300 synthetic. So we had been ahead 22 million. Well, pulling back a little bit, we still got a 14 million paper profit, right? So we took 90 off the table and we made money, right? So we normally buy the calls. So we sold the calls that we had bought for a nice profit, and then we bought back the put. So the difference between that was about $1.6 million. So that turned us profitable for May, right? So we look pretty good on that scenario, right? We're still well above this synthetic. So let's go look at holdings. So the issue becomes with this 913 currently closing up at 1463 from a 1280, we closed the day at $1.60.5. So that 2.6 million that we had collected, we'd have to buy back at 14.6, right? So we're facing a $12 million loss on that. And technically, since we've already got this money, it will cost us 14 million. Well, in our synthetic, we're at 14.1. So these are about a wash. And as we go down to try and remove this on the weekly, then this goes down. But this one's a paper. So I think that's why today they decided to sell some of the synthetic, 90 of them, but they still have 913. So I think that gives us a clearer picture that they want the fund to have the money so they can pay out well. You know, a lot of times that doesn't happen if they're not ready to roll or sell the synthetic. So when we look at shares, no shares came into the fund. We're still, you know, we closed at 31.84, up slightly. Fair value is 31.81. So let's look at the weekly, which I had showed you. So, you know, the problem is we already lost a bunch, but we took some profits on that. So on the chart, I did not update the second chart, right? This is the one where we ran to 1503. So it's 1463. Everything still looks good. Again, we could come down and test this breakout at 1380. And that would help that weekly. And then if we turned around and ran up, it's going to help our synthetic anyhow. So in a way, that's the best possible income for tomorrow, is for it to pull back to 1380, right? And then buy that back for less money. So let's go take a look. So anyway, that's what I see happening, because otherwise I'm bullish. I mean, people aren't buying MSTY. I think this thing is gonna fly when Mr. gets going and we're not capped so much on these weeklies and we have a chance to write new weeklies, right? And there's no surety that it's even gonna pull back to these levels, right? It may pull back to 1400, but from 1439, you know, it can do that intraday and then paint the chart, so to speak, where the intraday is there, right? That's why you have, you know, lines on a chart. Let's look, and I'll show you what I mean on payments, and then I'll go back to hold. So we bought back some of the losing weeklies to take those losses and sold some synthetics for profit. We now have a paper gain on synthetics remaining of 14.1 and a loss remaining on the expiring calls to be settled, okay, at a current value of 14.6. So those are kind of washes, although if we take that loss here, it'll hit us right away at this and we won't have any income here, right? We'll be like minus $1 or $2. But having this over here is settling to me, right? It still says we've got a 14 million synthetic profit that we've taken, right? Let alone that we could gain if we run to 1800 in MSTR on those synthetics will make a ton of money. So I see them writing better calls that I'm sure hoping to. I like what they did today. Kudos. I give the fund manager an A for saying, hey, I'm going to sell some of the synthetics and I'm going to buy back some of the losing calls that just don't have much of a chance of getting back into the money. So I think it was a wise move. I think they see the chart probably how I see it. They have some institutional monies to have some bright minds. And let's see, sometimes I see them make simple mistakes, but for the most part, I think they're handling this well. As a reminder, some of you commented, I am going to do some silver and gold, both funds, ETFs, and a few individual picks. And hopefully YieldMax adds some of that. I know they were looking at oil and commodities, and I think anybody can see that gold and silver are going to move up, and so are the equities the rest of this year. So I'd love to see them do some of the heavy lifting for us and give us a fund, you know, tied to a SILJ or SIL or GDX or HUI, something that has big enough volume going forward, that they can do the index, and there's plenty of option volume because they have certain requirements. They need to have a big type of fund. Okay, that's all I got for you guys. I'm going to knock out Coney. You probably won't see Coney till 5 or 6 in the morning, but I wanted to get this one out. All right, hey, have a good one. Again, this is not financial advice. Seek a financial advisor for any financial decision. This is for fun and entertainment only. See ya. Bye.